Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World, presented by acepodcastnation, for the fans, by the fans. This is your Cardiff City unofficial, official fan channel, talking all things Cardiff City, 7 days a week, all year round. All we talk about is the Bluebirds, which means that a lot of the time we're very, very unhappy because it's painful. We all know it, but we all keep going back for more. We've done it for years. We'll still be doing it in 20 more years. It's just the way it is. It's frustrating, infuriating. But today, it's 5 things we learned from Cardiff City versus Preston. Let's go. So, number 1 for me is, they're not in any particular order. And it's not like 5 things that we didn't know already, but it's 5 things that we can talk about from the game. Number 1, is the manager making problems for himself? So earlier in the season, we obviously had the issues with the Runnison and Alnwick, and did he need to change it and disrupt everything and make the defence a bit edgy and nervous? Probably not. A few times Ruben Colwell now has been dropped on the back of good performances. And his 2 best performances in Cardiff City shirt, he was rotated or dropped the next game. So where's his head at? Like, it seems very frustrating. Turnbull, who I'm going to talk about a bit later on, but Turnbull's not a number 10. So the manager had a choice yesterday. Was either you play Turnbull as the number 8 alongside Siopis that he's been signed to do and play, or if Wintle has earned his place in that starting lineup from his performance against Watford, which is all right, understandable, then Turnbull's got to stay on the bench. Colwell should not have been the one who came out with that side. Now, is that the reason we lost? No, I'm not saying that. But I think these types of issues are causing problems, generally speaking, whether it's within the side, whether it's the fan base getting frustrated. I do feel like the manager rotates the side for the sake of rotating, as opposed to I'm rotating this player or this player or this player starting because I've got a plan and this is the reason. Atete is another one who I said last Sunday on 5 things. Out of all the players who retained their place against Watford ahead of the new signings, he was the one who made no imprint or no performance that made you think, oh yeah, he's going to keep Jeju out. Whereas Colwell, Wintle, Collins, all had good games. The keeper all had good games against Watford, so you could argue for them to start against Preston. Atete didn't. Atete was poor. He's been poor for a while. Spends most of his time on the floor, not strong enough. And then when you see the quality that Jeju's got under pressure with the ball at his feet, with his back to goal and his linker play, his first touch, something I mentioned on deadline day was his ability to receive the ball under pressure is really, really impressive. It's like night and day with him and Atete, but the manager keeps sticking with Atete. Personally, I would have dropped Wintle yesterday for Turnbull, but playing Turnbull at number 10 made no sense. It's just not his position. It's not where he's at his best. He plays best with the game in front of him. And as a number 10, you receive the ball in pockets of space for your back to goal a lot. I know on the radio they said they thought Phillips had a really good game. I thought he did all right. I thought he wasn't terrible. I thought his passing was relatively good. But I also thought he looked a little bit, maybe not match sharp, just a few heavy touches here and there. I thought Gutas was lucky to stay on the pitch. We'll talk about the centre-halves in a minute. Number 2 is the centre-halves. Obviously, McGuinness was out injured. As I say, I thought Phillips' distribution was pretty good. Just wish we weren't so slow with the passing and sideways. At the start of the season, our possession play and playing out from the back had purpose. It was to beat the press and it was to progress the ball up the field. And it feels now like we're just keeping possession for the sake of it. And either teams have found us out and they know how we were playing at the start of the season, so they just sit off us a little bit and don't fully press, and they just cut out the passing lanes. So we just go sideways in, midfield back again. And you don't do anything, you don't progress anything. And it becomes very difficult then to create anything, especially if you fall behind. And also, in terms of our possession play, like we said in the preview, Preston will be very, very organised. The centre of the pitch will be very, very well marshalled by their three midfielders. Janssen in the middle is going to create if you give him any space, and he got 2 assists. Like a lot of the things we talked about in the preview came to fruition in the game. But the centre-backs, for me, is an interesting one. Gutas, I thought, wasn't at his best yesterday. I thought he was lucky to be on the pitch. Second half, he did 2 very clumsy high tackles, and another ref, particularly the first one, another ref probably sends him off for that. But 2 of them, I thought he was very lucky not to get 2 yellows because they were yellow cards. He gave the ball away a bit, and when he didn't give the ball away, he was quite slow, and it was all very turgid and not great. And that's not just down to the centre-backs, but I think McGuinness does bring a bit of quality with the ball. He looks after the ball, and hopefully when he comes back now fit, I'd like to hope that that he'll bring a bit of that back into him. In terms of the other defenders, I thought NG did all right, and I thought Collins has been done quite well the last couple of games. However, when you see some of the qualities that Wilson has, I forgot his name. I always forget his name. Wilson man gets when you see the qualities he's got going forward, it's difficult not to think, God, I wouldn't mind seeing him as an attacking left back, overlapping Grant, because Grant does a lot of cutting in. But Grant also works hard and drops into spaces. You can get Wilson man up the left and around. That could be some really Wilson Esperand. So I'd really like to see Wilson Esperand starting. I would give Collins a rest. I think after that long-term injury, he's played pretty much every game. Just give him a rest. So he's not one I would drop for performance, Collins. I would just give him a rest. And I'd like to see Wilson Esperand on the left-hand side. And interestingly, against West Brom, no Carlin Grant, I'm going to kind of go back on what I had said earlier in the season. So at the start of the season, I said play Ruben Corwell at number 10 or don't play him. I would actually play Ruben Corwell off the right tomorrow. And I would play Bowler off the left. And I'll tell you the reasons in a minute. But Wilson Esperand was impressive. I just be interesting because I don't see the manager dropping on the centre half. I don't see the manager dropping Gutas. But on yesterday's performance, if I've got three those centre halves are all fit together for the West Brom game, I'm probably going Phillips and McGuinness, probably. But I think any combination of the two is all right. We just need a bit more urgency. What we need is Turnbull in midfield alongside Siopis to receive the ball from the midfield. So you've got Siopis and Turnbull as options, which we can then play through the field. So that's the centre half side of things. Number 3, fans, crowd, start of home games, home form, all kind of into one. Our home form is absolutely diabolical this year. I think there's a few reasons why. I don't think it's one thing. So first and foremost, I think the manager's tactics, or certainly the tactics before the transfer window, before we got these additional players in, very much suits away. It's like counter-attack, be very solid, be compact, try and win the ball back sort of around the halfway line and hit teams on the break away from home and get keep it solid for an hour and then try and pinch a goal towards the end. Obviously works. Our away form has been really good all season, particularly the first half of the season. I thought it was particularly good. So why is the home form so bad? Well, I think one, teams, you're expected to be a bit more attacking as the home team. I think we start very methodical and very slow, which then gets the crowd kind of moaning and groaning. The crowd are like already a bit on edge and not particularly impressed. And all that purpose that we had in the way we were passing, like you go back to the Swansea, the Huddersfield game, the Bristol game, the passing had purpose. The passing was progressing the ball up the field and there was patterns of play which looked like we had a plan. Now we just look clueless. We just look like we're knocking the ball back and forth. And if teams sit in against us and don't press, we kind of don't know what to do. But so there's two sides to that. I also think, look, there's the one side is fans pay their money, so they're entitled to boo, they're entitled to moan and groan, and they're entitled to have their say. However, as I've said many times, if you're going to moan and groan and boo, all it does is up the anxiety levels. Those players are not going to suddenly go, oh shit, I better start playing well and start playing well. They're in fact probably going to get more anxious, make more mistakes, more heavy touches, etc. But on the other hand, the manager has to send the team out at home. If that means playing like Tanner and Grant, or Tanner and Esperand on the wings, so it's a bit more attacking from the start. So you look at the starting lineup and you've got Tanner and you've got Esperand on the wings, and you're like, all right, here we go. And then they start fast and aggressive, and they're in the other team's face, and they're pressing and putting them under pressure. The crowd will naturally raise, and the crowd will naturally get behind the team. But this kind of slow, methodical, purposeless passing is just making the crowd more frustrated, which in turn makes everything more anxious. So they've got, I think, a big part of getting the home form back on track for the rest of the season, and hopefully finishing with a good run at home, is start fast, start aggressive, and have a bit of urgency everywhere on the pitch. Quick throw-ins, in the other team's face, bit of aggression, maybe a bit more direct, get people running in behind. Like, our ball is it's really weird. Like, so if we have a throw in the opponent's half, our movement off the ball is pretty good. You'll have a few different people showing for it, a few people running in behind. But so often we would get the ball in the sort of final, not quite the final third, whether it was Ramsey or Colwell or whoever, Grant, people, they'd get the ball and they've got no movement whatsoever in front. Everyone comes short. Everyone kind of holds their shape. It's very, very disciplined, and it's not fluid at all. There's no running in behind. There's no overlaps. There's no little interchanges. There's no swapping. There's no 1 or 2. We look really, really, really like just rigid, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. So in my opinion, to get the crowd on side and to get the atmosphere up a bit to try and help the team has got to be more aggressive and a bit more urgent from the start, because we're not a team who's going to go and blow teams away at the moment with the way we're playing. Second of all, or should I say number 4, going more direct with the passing doesn't necessarily mean lumping it long, Neil Harris style or whatever, or going back to this kind of football that everyone we've seen over the last few years, which is relegation kind of fodder and like just long ball, turgid shite. It doesn't have to be that. Like, being a bit more direct is not necessarily just long ball, long ball, long ball. But you have to evolve in a game. You have to adapt in a game to what's going on. So if you're coming up against a team which is really, really good in the press, and they press you in numbers, and they press like they have a trigger point, and they all go together, then the way to beat that, if you can't pass through it, is to go over it and then play. It's not necessarily long ball, it's just a good long pass. Also, if a team is very compact and they don't really kind of press, and they don't, like Preston yesterday, they keep their shape, they keep the middle very congested, and they try and exploit the wide areas in the transition. So then you have to play the channels. You have to get in behind those wing backs. So whether it's the centre forward, whether it's the wingers being high and bloody wide and stop being so narrow, you play in those areas where you can exploit the other team. And I'm fed up of Cardiff, and this is what I've been saying a lot recently. Like, there's obviously a lot of frustration in the fan base. Now, I want Bulut to stay. I want him to be the manager for the next couple of years, and I want him to finish what he's building and finish the rebuild of Cardiff City Football Club. However, that doesn't mean he's devoid of criticism, and if you criticize him, that doesn't mean you want him sacked either. He's bringing on some problems himself, but one of the biggest problems he has got, apart from he doesn't know his best 11, is his lack of plan B or plan C. Like if plan A doesn't work, you need to have a plan B, plan C, etc. And yesterday we just tried the same thing over and over and over again, and it just didn't work once. We were all right in the first 20 minutes. We were in control. We weren't exactly like cutting them open with beautiful one-touch football, but we were pretty good controlling the game. You get caught on the break, and then we never recovered from that first goal. We never looked like really kicking on and doing anything from there. I'm going to be dropping my. I'm going to be doing my West Brom preview tomorrow morning. It'll probably be a live one, but I'll just put it up in the morning, and then you guys can watch it when you watch it. But one of the things I'm going to talk about is the need for the manager to find his best 11, stick with it for a few games, injury permitting, because this rotation for the sake of it is not working. You need a bit of consistency. Round pegs in round holes is when Cardiff have done their best stuff this year. And then finally, point number 5 is for a manager who likes to rotate, certain players do not seem to get a chance. So I think it's really weird, right? So Colwell, off the back of his best game, seems to get rotated, and I think everyone was a bit frustrated by him being rotated yesterday. If Ramsey wasn't going to start, I think everybody felt like the way to go, particularly in the system that Preston play in that 3-5-2, like a number 10, especially an unconventional number 10 like Ruben Colwell, would have caused them a lot of issues. So that was a bit weird to me, especially with Turnbull behind. And then you look at like Bowler. I know he's got a worldie against Watford, but I thought he didn't offer much yesterday again. Incredibly frustrating player. Well, like what's Tanner got to do to get a look in? What's Tanner got to do to get in and just get a start or get like a good half of football? He's a very direct winger. We've seen him do some special things when he does get the opportunity. He's a bit unpredictable. I think that's probably why the manager doesn't fancy him. I think the manager's quite kind of rigid in his thinking, and maybe that's why the likes of Tanner and Colwell don't get the shout or don't get the benefit of the doubt, or tend to be the players who get off or benched, because they're a bit unpredictable and they're a bit I guess unpredictable is the word. I can't think of the words. Like a bit of an enigma almost. Like they just do things out of nothing, create and stuff. But I think you need those type of players as long as it's set up in the right system. But we create nothing. We don't get in the wide areas. We don't get behind the fullbacks. One of the areas in the preview before yesterday's game, which I talked about a lot, was the way to exploit Preston was to make sure you didn't give Janssen any room in the midfield, because he would do damage and he would cause you immense with his problems with his passing ability and his ability to carry the ball. And what happens? He gets 2 assists. The other thing I discussed was how clinical Preston are against Ipswich, where they won 3-2. They had 3 shots on goal. Yesterday, towards the end of the game, they'd only had 2 shots on goal on target. Obviously, the 2 goals. So if I can see that before the game, these dangers, why can't this team of analysts and coaches see it? And if they did see it, why didn't they have a plan to deal with it and to exploit those areas? That's frustrating to me. We've got to find a way to create for these players and these strikers. A couple of times Ramsey came late into the box in the second half, but the ball never comes. So he's arriving at the right time, but the ball never comes. And to me, like, I don't think the manager's going to drop Bowler. Ultimately, it's not going to. I don't think he will. So when I do my predicted team, I'll give you a little insight to tomorrow's preview. When I do my team, I'm going to suggest playing Bowler on the left and playing Colwell off the right. The main reason for that, if it was a home game, I'd probably go with Tanner off the right, even though I believe Colwell deserves to be starting. Ramsey, I would think, will start at 10. If Ramsey's not going to start, obviously you put Colwell in there and Ramsey comes off the bench. But I would put Bowler on the left, and I would tell him isolate your fullback high and wide, and get some bloody crosses in the box. Get in behind the fullback, put the ball in the box, get Wilson Esperand behind him, overlapping. And as soon as we win that ball back, as soon as we get the ball, get down the wide areas, particularly on that left. If you can have Bulut and Wilson Esperand, I think that's a good combination away from home to get at the right-hand side of West Brom. And then whether it's Tanner or Colwell on the right-hand side, I think can do a good job as well, depending on what Ramsey's doing. But I think the manager, most of all, needs to find what his best 11 is. I'm interested in what you think our best 11 is, our best system, our best 11. So, like, in the comments under this video, tell me what you think. Cardiff, if everyone's fit and everyone's good to go, what system and what team would you play? Where if you had to stick with that 11 for the next 3 games, regardless of home and away and opponents, you have to stick with that 11 and that system at the start of each game for the next 3 games. What would your 11 be? I'm really interested by that. Look, I think people need to be patient. We're not even a year into the new manager rebuilding this team. It is largely made up of frees and loans, which are players people don't want. We've signed a couple of really, really good players in the January window, but they're going to take a bit of time to settle in. Very disconcerting, disheartening to see a brand new signing of the quality of Turnbull shaking his head as the team's being booed off. Like, that was his first experience of Cardiff City, a home crowd. And that's really disappointing because, he will have, he's played at Celtic Park for a long time. He's played in some special atmospheres. He will have heard of Cardiff fans and the atmosphere that can be created. So for his first experience to be such a negative one is really disappointing, I got to say. Cardiff, he needs to get his right. He needs to get his first 11 and he needs to settle on what his best 11 is. Then he needs to instill a bit of purpose and urgency into the passing. He needs to tell the team and coach the team that if passing possession based or playing from the back is not working for whatever reason, whether the team's not pressing, whether it's just a bit not creating anything, we have to find a different way of playing. Colwell is 6 foot something. He's a big boy. So if he's playing in the 10, use the fact that him and Jeju are both big and strong and got a good first touch under pressure, and have Wilson Esperand, have Bowler, Tanner, whoever, Mate, getting in behind. We've got to get in these wide areas, isolate the fullbacks, and get some balls in the bloody box. I'm so fed up of seeing Ramsey, Colwell, the strikers, making runs in the box because they're expecting the ball to come in and then it goes short or it gets lost. And it's just very, very frustrating. The pressing at home was non-existent, disjointed. You had Turnbull pressing on his own, like I mentioned in the Sheffield Wednesday game the other week. Like, Colwell was pressing from his number 10 position while the 2 wingers and the strikers all sort of stood there with the hands on their hips. They have to go as a team. There should be a trigger point. So it's normally the number 10 is the trigger. So when, say, Colwell or Ramsey go to press, the striker goes with him, the wide players push up, and the more attacking of the 2 midfielders would push up, or even 2 of them will push up into the space to close that space and to cut the passes out so they cannot play through midfield, forcing them to go long, and then a Gutas or a Phillips or whoever will attack the ball and win it back. That's the whole point. But Tete puts little to no effort in a lot of the time, or he certainly seems like he is. Falls over a lot, just not strong enough for me. And yeah, that's where I kind of stand with it at the moment. I think people need to be patient. We're not even a full season, a full year into this rebuild. We've just signed a lot of players, and I think, we know Turnbull's got quality. Wilson Esperand showed a lot of good technical ability yesterday, a lot of pace, a lot of skill. That's promising. I think Jeju, again, showed some little glimpses of what he's capable of. And I'm really excited that his ability under pressure to hold the ball up could open some gaps for us if we get him behind. Got to get him behind. Move the ball a bit quicker. We don't all have to have 4 or 5 touches. 1-2 touch, boom, boom, boom. And if people are moving off the ball, we've got the players with the technical ability to cut through teams. If we have the movement off the ball and the passing is a bit quicker, 1, 2, 3 touch most. Boom, boom, boom. We've got the players to do that. We've just seemed to have forgotten how to do it. Now, is that coming from the manager? Is it a confidence thing? Is it a home confidence thing? Is it like we just seem to have lost a lot of the things which were so positive at the start of the season, which is a concern. Because if it wasn't for our away form, we would be banging the relegation fight. Just going to have a quick look at some of the comments before I finish up. Obviously, it's just a short one, 5 things. This is technically supposed to be a pre-recorded video, but time is of the essence. Reese has thought Esperan looked good when he came on. Pacey, running at defenders, could be on the wing. I'd drop Bowler. He looks disinterested again. Yeah, I would. I don't think the manager will drop him, mate, as I said. So I would switch him to the left, and I would tell him, get him, attack, and put the ball in the box. I don't want to see you cutting inside because I'm fed up of it. Fed up with him and fed up with his attitude, to be quite frank. And especially when Tanner just can't get a game, and we've seen what he can do. As Bowler done any more than what Tanner's done? I don't think so. I think they both equally had some magical moments, but also flattered to deceive at times as well. The one thing about Tanner, I think his attitude's been better. Reese also said in the final third we look clueless. Even Ruben, all they do is get the ball, turn back inside, pass across the front of the box, and then back again. No one's whipping the ball in from the cross. They just won't cross it. Yeah, and I think that comes from the coaching, mate. They're obviously being told to build and try and work a position rather than just put it in the box. Colwell played a weird position. He was like almost like half number 10, half midfield when he came on. But they were obviously, it was all kind of, we weren't doing anything and particularly creative. He was just trying to make something happen, as was Ramsey. Sick of saying it every week. How many times Wintle and Turnbull have the ball, look wide, only find Bowler and Grant have both gone central. We have no width. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'd play Bowler off the left with Wilson Esperand at left back next game. And I'd probably play Tanner on the right, to be honest, or maybe Mate away from home. Like I think that even though Ramsey's back in, I would probably try and find a place for Ruben Colwell. But if we play him on the right, he's going to constantly cut in. And if we play him on the left, I don't know, maybe it'll work off the left. And he'll certainly work harder than Bowler. Turnbull several times closed down the opposition keeper from deep, even their defenders, because Atete just stood there standing still watching them. Sick of him playing. I don't know what the manager sees in him. Yeah, he should have gone in loan in January, Atete, I think, because I think he needs to go and strengthen himself physically and mentally by playing League One football, League Two football, week in, week out, scoring some goals, but just getting physically and mentally stronger, I've got to be honest. Matthew says, Gusas should have done better with the first goal, should have closed the Preston player down, allowed him too much space to cut back into the box and turn him inside out. Yeah, we talked about it, mate, in the preview. Preston have got some dangerous players, and it's difficult because the one thing about Preston is, apart from the fact they are very, very organised, very compact, very clinical. Like, you've got to give it to them. They don't need a lot of shots on goal. You give them 1 or 2 opportunities, they'll put them away and they'll make you pay. And they made Cardiff pay last night. I was like, it was almost like a smash and grab, you know? Like, they didn't really, they weren't troubling us massively, but they won 2-0 and they were very, very comfortable. We never recovered from that first goal. Right. Tomorrow evening is the Cardiff City phone-in on Cardiff City World. So please make sure you check that out. It'll be 6 o'clock in the evening. And I'm very much looking forward to what the guys have to say about that. I'll also be dropping the West Brom preview in the daytime sometime, probably about lunchtime. And then Tuesday night will be Super Kev Unscripted, episode 2. Wednesday night will be the Cardiff City World pod. Actually, no, Wednesday night will probably be the post-match show from the West Brom game. And then Thursday night, before I do Rhodri Giggs on football, I'll do the Cardiff City World pod. And then Friday will be Michael Chopra part 2. Which is the question and answer portion with all the fans asking the questions. If you haven't seen the first part, it's largely focused on its gambling issues and stuff like that. But it's really interesting. Like, he talks about Bellamy and their sort of relationship, some of the arguments they had and whatnot. It's really interesting in terms of, like, you know, as you know, on Ace Podcast Nation, we've done a lot of work at channels and series and talk on mental health and addiction and things like that. So for Michael to be so honest and open about that stuff was interesting, and fair play to him. He didn't shy away from any topics and talked about it in depth. So if you haven't seen that already, it's on Ace Podcast Nation and on Cardiff City World, and it'll be the same on Friday. Part 2 will be dropping. Also, a big shout out to Martin Davis, who is currently selling luxury Cardiff City pennants in the aid of Cardiff City Football Club Disabled Supporters Association. Each pennant is individually packaged, absolute top quality. You can get them via the City Disabled Supporters Association on Twitter, or you can email them, which is all below. It's also in the description below. Or you can contact Martin Davis via the Premier Bluebirds Facebook group. They are absolutely lovely. Please do check them out. We gave one away last week, which was won by Lorna Evans. I'm sure she'll receive that very soon. I believe the Cardiff City phone-in also gave one away as well. So look out for more giveaways. Maybe I'll give away my signed Michael Chopra shirt. Nah, I won't. I'm lying. Maybe I'll give away my Ian Brown shirt instead. Guys, as always, it's an absolute pleasure. Please, please, please like, subscribe, like and share the video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the audio, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. It's building up slowly. We shout out to all the fans who sent in vlogs and video and stuff, and Matthew and Donna and that. But I want to say a massive shout out and a big thank you to Katie, young lady. I think she's 13. She literally did a full day's vlog of arriving at the stadium. She gave input about the game, clips of the game and stuff like that. Full 10-minute video on the channel. Please check that out. Give it a like. Drop a nice little comment. Support her, because let's be honest, right? It's not always easy to like talk into your camera and be coherent and sort of make good points. And she did a great job. And I know her and her twin sister are doing the same thing tomorrow when they go to West Brom away. If you'd like to send in your predictions for the game against West Brom, please do send them in. We always want predictions, vlogs, opinions as the game's going on, or half-time, full-time, whatever, and we'll upload them. And of course, if you'd like to get involved, we are looking for someone to do a kind of 5-10 minute daily news roundup. Just literally go on with your phone, do a roundup of the news on Wales Online and the papers and stuff of all things Cardiff City for the day. If you think that's something you'd be interested in doing, give us a shout and we'll go from there. O'Dowda is back in training. I don't think he'll be match fit though for a couple of weeks, but you never know, mate. You never know. Shout out to Matthew and Rob as well, who did the post-match show Saturday night, 7 o'clock. They'll be back on Saturday. I think I've got to just double check with them. I think they're going to be here on Wednesday for the West Brom post-match. So instead of doing it like late on Tuesday night, we'll just do the post-match on Wednesday. And as always, if you'd like to join the post-match show, get in touch. We're always looking to add fans to the channel. We just want as many different voices, as many different views, and the rest of it. Make it a real fan channel. But the first week is in the books. Cardiff City content, 7 days a week. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow, lunchtime, for the West Brom preview. Nice one.